I'm going to bring you out, if I may, to your 80th birthday. And this is where it's going to get interesting. Now, I'm not going to ask your age. That's between you and whomever. But I do want you to, if you have a pen and paper, I'd like you to write down the date of your 80th birthday. Mine is the 30th of March, 2043. And I'll give you a link later. You can send cards and flowers. So mine's the 30th of March, 2043. Write down the date of your 80th birthday, please. And I don't know how you feel about the gap between here and there. For me, I've got 23 years to go. To be precise, it's 22 years and 214 days, 213 days. I sort of keep track of these things, right? So, you know, for some of you, your 80th birthday will be closer than others. I'm not going to pick anybody out in the screen because that would be unfair. But for some of you, it's miles away. For some of us, it's not so far away. And I suppose the first thing I'd like you to jot down is, how do you feel? Just one word or two words. How do you feel about your 80th birthday relative to where you are now? If you wouldn't mind, just write down a word or two. I'm not going to dwell on it, but I want to get you out there mentally for a moment. Here's a lovely phrase, right? Too many people live life like they are reading a novel, waiting to see how it all turns out. Too many people live their life like they're reading a novel, waiting to see how it ends. And I think that that's a wrong paradigm. I think it's a natural paradigm. I think we've perhaps historically, that's been the way, but I think it's a wrong paradigm, because in fact, you and I are writing the next chapter as we speak. At this moment in time, you've chosen to be here. I've chosen to be here. I got an invitation, delighted to be here. You've chosen to be here. Thank you for honoring us with your time. So you're in charge of what happens next. You're in charge of what happens at 3 o'clock, largely. Of course, stuff comes in and knocks us sideways. Of course it does. But we're the ones with the pen in hand. And the real question is, what novel do we want to write for the remaining period? Not, by the way, to suggest that life will end at 80. My two parents, thankfully, are both 82. Dad was 82, 6th of August, and Mum will be 82 next week. So excited about that. So I'm not saying life will end at 80, but you know, 80 is a good innings, dare I say it, right? And on the basis that 80 is a good innings, it's a good place to start. I want us all just to start out there mentally for now. So you have your 80th birthday, you have your date, and you've got a feeling you've written down. I feel excited about being 80. I feel nervous about being 80. Feck it, it's too close, right? Or whatever, or it's miles away. But you've written something down. I hope that means something to you. I'm also learning that life needs a roadmap, okay? And I use this analogy when I'm talking to groups, so I decided to use it here. So there's a map of our delightful little island. And for a roadmap needs three things. It needs a destination. You see on the map there, I've chosen Donegal town by way of a destination. That's my metaphorical 80th birthday. Is that okay? Just by way of describing the principles I'm trying to explain here. I'm starting here in Killaloe. I'm living in Killaloe in County Clare these days. So that's my starting point. So let's say Donegal town there is my 80th birthday, and I'm 57 today in Killaloe. And the third thing a map needs is a waypoint. And so I've chosen Galway, example there, as perhaps my 60th birthday, and Sligo might be my 70th birthday, and therefore Donegal is my 80th birthday. I'm hoping you're getting the picture. But the whole idea is you need to know where you're headed, and then you need to know whether you're on the right track or not. So if I decide that my 80th birthday is like me arriving in Donegal town, no disrespect to Our Lady from Cork, to Mary, but there's no point in me driving to Cork in my life, if that makes sense, if I'm actually heading to Donegal town. I hope you're picking up on that. Okay, so by your 80th birthday, I want to take you out to your 80th birthday for a second, and I'd like you to think about it, if you don't mind. I'm quite sure most people haven't. I certainly hadn't before I was introduced to this exercise. It's another Stephen Coveyism, begin with the end in mind. Stephen wrote a fabulous book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, not highly successful people, highly effective people. And the first principle is begin with the end in mind. Donegal town, you know where you're headed, and you take steps in that direction. What I want you to do, if you don't mind, is look at the next couple of slides and note if anything comes to mind for you. That first slide there is it's in black and white. I chose it specifically because it's black and white. And the images represent older people who are unhappy in their lives. At least that's the way I'm reading them, okay? And could that be because, you know, they believed that they were living their life like reading a novel, waiting to see how it all turned out. And in those images, perhaps it didn't turn out the way they would like it to be. This one here is a much happier picture. And if we have a choice of that or that on our 80th birthday, I suspect most of us would probably pick the happier colored version. And if that's the case, well then let's all be aware, and we'll have a Q&A after this, but let's accept that we're at least in some control of some of the elements that would lead us there. And I'm going to do a little bit of work with you today. That's what the one thing is all about. I'm going to show you how the one thing can impact on that picture or that picture by your 80th birthday. I'd like to think that on my 80th birthday, and for yours the same, that it'll be a celebration. I think, you know, we get to 80, and whether you take an alcoholic drink or not isn't the point. I'd like to think that it's a celebration for you and a celebration for me. And really it's about developing a picture. And I recommend, in fact, I might, if I can suggest this, Declan, there's actually a link to a short video. I think it's a 90-second video that I wouldn't mind sharing out to Declan. And if you want to share it out to the group, it's a little video which takes this principle and perhaps goes a little bit deeper in a very short space of time for people. So I'll share that with you afterwards, if that's okay. But the whole idea here, folks, is to get you to realize that, please God, someday you will be 80. And you'll be looking back on your life, looking back on today from the vantage point of being 80. And I believe it's within your power to be as whole in yourself as you can be on your 80th birthday, but not if you just arrive there without giving it any thought. We have to take steps in a particular direction. That's what I want to get you thinking about today, if that's okay. Love this phrase as well. The poet Mary Oliver. Poet Mary Oliver asks, tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? It's not a dress rehearsal. We're not coming around again, right? This is it. And so I'm hoping to get you thinking today. There's no judgment. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just sharing with you stuff I'm learning as I go. And this is where I am at this moment in time. And I love that phrase. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? You've got one life and it's wild and precious. What are you going to do with it? So your 80th birthday, I'm going to get you to do a little bit of work if you don't mind. Okay. Who would you like in the room? 10 names. Who's on the invite list? And clearly it doesn't have to be definitive. It's just, and it's perhaps the first time many of you have thought of this. So it's just who comes to mind. Top of your head, who comes to mind? Who do you want there? Second question, if I may, and you can finish this. I'll very happily share the slides with Declan if you wish afterwards. But second question is, somebody's going to make a speech, whether you like it or not, right? It's your 80th birthday. Somebody's going to say something. What would you like them to say about your life? Loyal, honest, go to for anything, always there. I don't know. I don't know. What would you like to say? And by the way, don't confuse that with what they might say if your birthday was next week. Next question. What would you like them to say about your character and your contribution? And maybe there's a bit of bleed into the, one question into the other here. What would you like them to say about your character and your contribution? And then what achievements would you like them to remember? Right. Listen, thanks for that. And clear, all I'm trying to do is get you started, get you thinking. So feel free later on in the day or tomorrow or next week, come back to it and expand on it. And, I have found this to be a very effective way of looking at the next period of our lives. And then the last question there is, what impact would you like to have had on their lives? So you got 10 people and the rest in the room, but you've got your special 10 in the room. What impact would you like to have had on their lives? Thank you for participating in that part. All right, good to go, Sarah? All right, good stuff. So the basic thrust of that little exercise is to ask you, invite you to start living today with that picture of your 80th birthday clearly in your mind, because that's your definition of true success. I told you Stephen Covey wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, not highly successful people. Too often in this world, we equate success with business success or monetary success. And of course, the longer in the tooth we become, we realize that that isn't the case necessarily. And but what you've crafted there, excuse me, for your 80th birthday is actually your definition of true success for you. You get there and achieve all that, you'll be in good shape. You'll be happy. Okay. So your 80th birthday, you know, the map there represents, as I said, a starting point, a waypoint, and a finishing point. Your 80th birthday there in Donegal. So the waypoint, I heard this lovely phrase, a roundy birthday. So a roundy birthday is a birthday with a 0 in it. So my 80th is a roundy birthday. My 60th is my next roundy birthday. My 70th and my 80th. So work out your roundy birthdays between here and now. And that picture you have for your 80th birthday is a number of roundy birthdays away, I'd suggest. So, you know, set yourself a waypoint. If you're not quite today where you'd like to be in your 80th birthday in relation to one aspect of your life, set something for your next roundy birthday and work on it till the following roundy birthday and so on. And it's a gradual journey. And then please God, that'll come to pass. Okay, so your starting point. I'm going to help you with your starting point today. Can't help you with your destination, with your 80th birthday, but I am going to help you with your starting point, if that's okay. And we're going to look at the roles that you play in your life. Going to look at the roles that you play. So what I want you to do, please, is pen and paper there, and as they come into your head, list the roles that you play. It might be father, mother, brother, sister, daughter, son, volunteer, business owner, ME sufferer, if I'm you know, allowed to use that in present company. But you know, what roles do you play? What's real in your life today? Employee, perhaps. Manager, perhaps. Football trainer. Teacher. Just whatever roles, whatever hats do you wear during, you know, the perfect patch that is the fabric of life, the week. In any given week, how many hats do you wear? So this is your starting point. This is your starting point. They're the list of roles that you play today, okay? In the context of where you're headed, which is your 80th birthday, what I'd like you to do now, please, and this is where it gets interesting, is I want you to go back to that list and I want you to prioritize them against your 80th birthday. Which of those roles that you play today, which is the most important role in terms of how you see your 80th birthday? And put a number 1 beside that. In terms of how you see your 80th birthday, which is your number 1 most important role that you fulfill today. Put a 1 against that. And then in terms of your 80th birthday, what's your second most important role that you play today? Put number 2 beside that. And in terms of your 80th birthday, what's the third most important role? And we won't go any deeper than 3 for today. I just want to give you the principles and the concept to get you thinking. Next thing I want you to do, please, is I want you to write, this is where we get into the title of the talk, the one thing, right? Now this is really interesting. This is really interesting, right? I want you to take that first most important role, just the first role, right? And I would like you to write down the one thing that you could do next week, between now and next Tuesday, that would have the biggest positive impact on that one role. So let's imagine you're gifted with only being allowed to do one thing in this next week, right? You've identified what's the most important role in your life today relative to your 80th birthday, and you can only do one thing in relation to that role. What's the one thing that you could do in this next week that would have the biggest positive impact on that role? And write that down, please. But the whole idea here is to get you to realize that you are in charge of doing the one thing. If you can only do one thing next week, the most important thing, go back to Mary Oliver, the poet, what's the, you know, what are you going to do with this one wild and precious life that you have? In terms of your 80th birthday, if you could only do one thing next week, you've actually identified it there. You can only do one thing in this next 7 days that will nudge you closer, edge you closer to that picture you crafted for your 80th birthday. You've written that down. And I really ask and suggest and hope that you'll take steps and do that one thing.
In your mind's eye, picture your 80th birthday. Picture the faces of your friends and family as they come to wish you well. All these people have come to honor you, to express their feelings, to toast a life well spent. Imagine you are the person being honored, the subject of the speeches. What would you like the speaker to say about you, your life?
Hasn't changed a bit.
What would you like them to say about your character and contributions?
Frank is the most honest man I've ever known. He's been a great colleague and a wonderful friend. Happy birthday, Frank.
Now think deeply.
Thank you all.
What achievements would you want them to remember?
I'd like to take just a moment.
What impact would you have liked to have made in their
This
lives?
is a special day for you. I don't know how come I'm such a lucky girl.
Start living today with that picture of your own 80th birthday party clearly in mind. In that picture, you will find your definition of true success.